We are speaking with you today. Thank you for joining us. We're speaking with you today to discuss the implications of this current pandemic, and especially its effects in Italy, in the development of a more person-centered approach, not just in public affairs, but also in education, economics, and in your specialization in psychology. First of all, can you tell us whether you've noticed a shift in the way that people are interacting as individuals in Italy as a result of this crisis?
Well, indeed, more than one. Some, I think, they are healthy for the individual psychology and social health, and others are much less. Let me explain. In Italy, right now, I'm closed down with my wife, like millions of Italians. I'm in Florence. If I go to buy food at the supermarket or in the pharmacy or in the newspaper, that's the only thing they are open, I walk a short distance and I see several, baskets that people by the window, put down at the street and says, if you need, take it. If you can share, put something in. And there are so many. So people are more kind, more solidarity, and basically are, growing from this big trauma. Others look a minority, at least for what I have seen, look distrustful, are really on the brink of a nervous breakdown, get upset for the smallest thing in the supermarket, fight with everybody. And this is really a good metaphor. We in Italy, but any nation, any culture, we can learn a big important lesson for this big trauma, or other times has happened already, like the wars. We cannot learn the messages, the lesson, and repeat so the same and stay that we brought us at this kind of condition, because it's not by chance.
So if we attempt to look beyond the strictly medical and virology aspects of this crisis, the first thing I'd like to ask you about is, do you see the potential, I know you see the potential of the psychological aspect, but do you see the potential for a political ramification insofar as the individual might become a more important player in the political life of the society, rather than the mere counting of mass groups of ballots and the taking of percentages, that the individual voices might somehow find a way to come to the fore? And if so, how could we actually implement a personalization of politics, given the fact that there are just so many people?
I love this question because I think it's really the main point. We have a tremendous opportunity for learning a lesson. And not only politicians can learn a big lesson that would make them effective politicians and leaders, effective leaders for the 21st century. Politicians always speak a lot. They need to listen more. And also, we, normal citizens, we speak a lot too and listen very little, sometimes even for, to our loved one, and to our students. So we listen more. That would be so important. And if we listen not only with our ears, but open our heart, that would be even more important. And what I mean is that, and this is not just an opinion, although I believe very strongly on it, we have tons of research that in this big trauma and other trauma as well, there is a phenomena which is called growth after trauma. Something like somebody risked to die in a car accident or a heart attack and really is damaged. So there is no doubt about. But the impact, the trauma, make him or her reconsider existentially the meaning of his and her life and the priority, and reassess priority. So I'm so glad that you asked. This is a very important, and no matter what, we always we're gonna have to answer this question, even if we are not aware that it's a big existential question, political, sociological. How are we gonna go back? If it's gonna be try to go back as business as usual, as somebody hope and think about, that would be a tremendous mistake. We would have wasted so much human capital not to understand the lesson, and especially, if you allow me, the lesson that coronavirus in the negative show us. We cannot look at the world we live in a mechanicistic, reductionistic thing. There is health, there is politics, there is economy, there is international relationship, there is community relation, and there is group relation. No, the coronavirus dramatically show that we live in a universe that is relational. So if we do not understand and act in a way that is effective and sustainable, we would pay bigger price. And this is not certainly be the last one of the tragedy that we have to witness.
I take to heart exactly what you've said about tragedy. I myself once faced death from a serious illness, and I ended up in a hermetically sealed hospital room for 6 weeks and barely survived. And as a result of those 6 weeks of actual trauma, I changed the course of my life. Now, what I'm wondering is whether the shared trauma that has taken place in Italy and in China and other countries, whether the shared trauma will succeed in having individualized results. That's the question, because when there's a shared trauma, people can pass it off and say, well, we survived that, let's forget it. Do you think that we're going to see an individualized benefit from having gone this shared trauma? And if so, if there is an individualized personal benefit, how can we extrapolate that personal benefit to modify collective systems, such as the democratic system, which is more often than not a mass system in which the human individual voice is lost?
I'm glad that you survived your trauma, and so you know very well that it's possible. And probably in your own experience, you had a choice to face your trauma and kneel down in fear and paranoia. And so that's also the chance that we all have, or being fearful, being hit by trauma, and becoming more courageous, more open. What I mean is an individual, family, groups, and community, the growth of trauma would be, healthy and a development of our potentiality. Let me explain a little bit and very quickly. Often, although when there is nothing, traumatic in our daily life, we still live life that are much less prosperous and healthy than we could. Why? As a psychologist, I know very well. We are at war with different parts of ourselves. And since we are at war with different parts of ourselves, we look at other people and actually project our fear and our dislike on other people. Even better if they are foreigners or from another religion and another country. And then, so not being at peace with ourselves, we cannot have a sustainable relationship with the wife, the husband, the kids, the friends, the co-workers, the society, and people that don't think like us. We are not helped by politicians that simplify things and tell us that all the problems of this world are the fault of some groups, of some countries, of some religion, as history has taught us. That is a pathology. Not only a pathology that doesn't allow us to develop our full potentiality, that has brought the catastrophe that we are all blind to the obvious. We think if we earn more money, we becoming more rich. There cannot be a more serious delirium. If I own acres of land and there is a forest and I cut down the forest to make, furniture, I'm not more rich. My family is not more rich. I have more money, but I am more poor than before because there is no more wood, birds, air, oxygen. So we've been now in a large picture blaming the others, destroying our human capital, natural capital, in such a vast way that if somebody 20 years ago would have presented a book of science fiction to any publisher that would describe how there is a strange planet where the inhabitants, thinking they're smart, thinking it's good for them individually, destroy the air, poison the water, the food, make war on every living organism, and also exploit and destroy other community, the publisher would say, oh, this dystopia is too negative. Nobody would buy. It's totally unbelievable, even as science fiction. That's exactly what we've been doing, living in the Anthropocene era, where the biggest problem for the planet, for every living life form, and for people is us. So we have an enormous to wake up and be transformed, not in a big, epic way that everybody has to write a book about goodwill, but to become more healthy, understanding that this cannot continue. If we don't understand the message, we will pay a big price. And what will be the result? Very simple. To wake up, not to be kneeling down on fear and projecting our paranoia on others, that our problems is the fault of somebody else, and never putting into question how we relate to ourselves other the world, would be to wake up, like sometimes happens also in psychotherapy or after a big trauma like you had with your illness, and realize we are alive, that we're breathing, that we are pulsating, and that other human being.